My boyfriend looked right at his friends, laughed, and said, "Honestly, this is the longest I've ever gone without cheating. I'm practically a changed man." Everyone at the table laughed. Everyone except me. I didn't flip the table. I didn't throw my drink in his face. I just quietly picked up the check, split out my part down to the cent, left my cash on the tray, and walked out. Later that night, his mom texted me, "What did you do? He's losing it." My name is Arabella Crane. I'm 29 years old, and right now I'm sitting in my car outside a neon-lit diner, gripping the steering wheel like it's the only thing keeping my life from spinning off the road. I'm not sure whether I want to scream, cry, or throw up. Maybe all three. The diner is still visible in my rearview mirror, buzzing with soft yellow light and the faint reflection of 5 people sitting at a corner booth. One of them is my boyfriend Ethan, 26, who just casually announced in front of everyone that not cheating on me for 8 months is some sort of personal world record. Let me rewind, because 20 minutes ago I thought tonight was normal. Ethan and I have been together for 8 months. He's charming in that disarming boy-next-door way, messes up his hair, laughs at his own dumb jokes, and somehow gets away with everything because his smile lands first. I'm a business systems analyst in Austin. My entire job is to trace failure points. Something stops working. I don't panic. I follow the data, find the bug, fix the system. I just never expected my own relationship to show up in my mental error log like this. Tonight was supposed to be simple, dinner with his college friends. There were 5 of us at the table. Me, Ethan, my boyfriend, Jess, his old roommate and closest female friend, 2 other women from their college circle, Maya and Lauren, who I'd met a couple of times before. It was a typical Friday night scene. The place smelled like fries and coffee, the air buzzing with low conversations and clinking cutlery. The red vinyl booth stuck a little to the back of my thighs every time I shifted. Jess was telling some story about a coworker who got caught cheating on her boyfriend. "I just don't get serial cheaters," Jess said, shaking her head and stabbing a fry in the air for emphasis. "Like, if you want to sleep with half the city, just stay single. Don't drag people into your chaos." Maya nodded. "Right? Don't commit if you're not going to commit." Lauren made a face. "It's cruel. You know what you're doing." I remember nodding along absently, chewing my burger while they talked. It was one of those conversations I'd heard a dozen times. Cheating, red flags, people who can't be faithful. I wasn't threatened by it. Why would I be? Ethan was next to me, arm draped along the back of the booth, fingers lazily tracing patterns on my shoulder. He chuckled along, made a few comments about how some people just don't deserve relationships, and I felt safe. Then it happened. Jess said, "Seriously, if you know you're a cheater, just don't get into relationships. Save everyone the trauma." Ethan took a sip of his soda, leaned back, and with that same easy grin I'd kissed 100 times, said, "Well, if it helps, this is officially the longest I've gone without cheating. So I guess I'm improving." 3 seconds. That's how long the silence was, long enough for the laughter to choke in my throat, for my heart to drop into my stomach, for my brain to realize I'd heard him correctly. Then everyone, except me and Jess, laughed. "Oh my God, Ethan," Lauren giggled, smacking his arm. "You're terrible." Maya snorted. "Self-awareness king." Jess didn't laugh. Jess stared at him like she'd just watched someone step onto a landmine. "Ethan," she said quietly, "that's not funny." He shrugged. "Come on, I'm joking." My hands suddenly felt too cold. My burger tasted like cardboard. The sounds in the diner faded into a distant blur. I turned to look at him. "What do you mean, longest you've gone without cheating?" He glanced at me, and for the first time that night, a flicker of panic crossed his face. It was quick, but I saw it. "I mean, you know I had commitment issues before," he said, the smile tightening. "We've talked about that, babe." No, we hadn't. We'd talked about bad breakups, crazy exes, and things not working out. We'd talked about how his last girlfriend didn't get him, how the one before that was controlling, and how he was finally in a healthy relationship now with me. But he had never said, "I cheated." Jess shifted in her seat, suddenly fascinated by her plate. Maya raised an eyebrow. "Wait, how long has it been?" Ethan hesitated only a second too long. 8 months, he said, flashing that grin again. Record-breaking, honestly. There was more laughter, but less this time. Nervous, thin. Jess swallowed. "Ethan, man, that's seriously not something to brag about." "Oh my God, Jess, relax," Ethan said, rolling his eyes. "I'm being honest about my growth. Right, Bella?" He nudged me. I was still staring. "Growth," I repeated slowly. "You mean you used to cheat on your girlfriends? He dropped his gaze to his plate. I told you I wasn't perfect in past relationships. You told me they were jerks, I said, my voice surprisingly steady for how hard my heart was pounding. You never said you were cheating on them. I didn't want to get into all the messy details at the beginning, he muttered. The table went quiet. The ambient noise of the diner suddenly felt too loud, like it was mocking me for being late to my own life. Jess let out a slow breath. There's a difference between not perfect and serial cheater, Ethan. He shot her a look. Thanks, Jess. He looked back at me, forcing a light tone. It's not like it's a big deal, Bella. Everyone makes mistakes. Sure, I said. Mistakes are different from patterns. Jess glanced up at me, and for the first time, I saw it in her eyes. She already knew. They all did. That realization was somehow worse than the confession itself. They knew who he had been. I was the only one who didn't. The rest of the meal was a blur. The conversation jerked back into motion like someone had hit play after a glitch. They started talking about weekend plans, work drama, anything but what had just been dropped on the table. Ethan laughed at a joke Maya made. He stole a fry off my plate like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, I was cataloging everything in my head like a system log. My boyfriend has a history of cheating. His friends know. He thinks 8 months of basic loyalty is an achievement. He never told me. When the check came, the server slid it onto the table with a practiced smile. Normally, Ethan paid, and I'd toss in tip money or cover dessert. Tonight, I quietly reached for the bill first. My fingers didn't even shake. I pulled it toward me, did the math carefully, wrote down the exact amount for my meal and drink, plus tip, and placed my portion of cash on the tray. Then I stood up. Ethan frowned. Hey, where are you going? We're supposed to catch that movie after this. I slipped my bag over my shoulder. You guys go ahead, I said. I'm heading home. Bella, seriously? His smile was thinning now, panic rising again. You're not actually mad about that. It was a joke. Behind him, Jess looked up sharply, her mouth opening like she wanted to say something and then closing again. It wasn't a joke, I said softly. It was information. I didn't make a scene. I didn't explain myself. I just walked out. The cool night air hit me like a slap. I could still feel their eyes on my back, but no one followed. I got into my car, shut the door, and suddenly the silence was deafening. No clinking dishes, no laughter, no Ethan pretending this was all nothing. Just me, my reflection in the windshield, and a single, clear thought. 8 months into a relationship, I just found out my boyfriend is a serial cheater who sees not betraying me as a new personal best. I started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot, and drove home on autopilot. Back in my apartment, I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and just stood there. My life looked exactly the same as it had that morning. Same couch, same half-read book on the coffee table, same framed photos, including one of Ethan and me at a lake, squinting at the camera, arms wrapped around each other like we were solid. Nothing in the room had changed. Everything else had. My phone buzzed on the coffee table around 9 p.m. Ethan. What was that, Bella? You embarrassed me in front of my friends. I stared at the screen for a long time. Embarrassed him. I set the phone back down without replying. 10 minutes later, it lit up again. Then again. Warnings, my brain whispered. Data points. Failure logs. The system isn't stable. I picked up the phone, watched his name flash on the screen, and let it ring until it went dark. I still hadn't said a single word to him. I wasn't done tracing the failure point yet. The text didn't stop coming. My phone buzzed incessantly. At first, I ignored it. But after the 4th message, I finally picked it up and saw Ethan's name glowing on the screen. Ethan, you're really going to do this? You're mad over a joke? I didn't answer. I couldn't. The last thing I needed was to get sucked back into a conversation where he tried to convince me that his history of infidelity wasn't as big of a deal as I was making it. It wasn't about a joke. I knew it and he knew it too. The following morning, I didn't rush to check my phone. I had breakfast in silence, feeling the quiet hum of my apartment around me, as if everything had gone still while I waited for the inevitable. By noon, I had 6 missed calls. 4 from Ethan, 1 from Jess, and 1 from his mom. I stared at my phone for a while, the names flashing on the screen like an unresolved riddle. Ethan, we need to talk. I'm sorry, okay? It was just a joke. Come on, I'm being serious now. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't respond. Jess. Bella, please talk to him. This is getting out of hand. He's falling apart. I could already hear Jess's voice in my head. It was the same tone she used whenever she called me to vent about Ethan's bad habits, the same voice that warned me about his tendency to be self-absorbed. But none of this mattered right now. I was the one who was hurt. I was the one left in shock, piecing together a picture of the man I thought I knew. The one who had hidden this part of himself from me for months. By the time Ethan called again, I was standing in front of the mirror, brushing my hair, making sure I looked composed for the conversation I knew was coming. It wasn't the type of conversation I wanted to have, but it was the one I needed to have. The phone rang. I picked it up and let it ring for a moment longer than usual. Hello? Bella, listen to me. Ethan's voice crackled on the other side, raw, desperate. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to go like this. I let him keep talking. His words spilled out quickly, a barrage of apologies, explanations, and pleas for forgiveness. You didn't mean it? I asked finally, my voice steady. You didn't mean to let your friends know that you thought your 8 months of faithfulness was some kind of record? You didn't mean to brag about it? To make me feel like the idiot who should be grateful for not being cheated on for 8 months? There was a long pause on his end, then a soft, almost defeated, Bella, you can't just say things like that and then brush it off. You can't act like it's nothing and expect me to just get over it. I felt the anger and disbelief building up in my chest, but I couldn't let it consume me. I needed clarity. What are you trying to say? He asked. There was a flicker of frustration now in his tone. You're mad because I made a joke? Seriously? I had to take a breath, holding back the overwhelming urge to yell at him. No, I said, calmer now. I'm mad because you're treating me like I'm the one who's overreacting. This isn't a joke to me. And you want to know the real kicker? I paused. You think I'm the one who should be apologizing for walking out on you after you made me feel like a fool in front of everyone. Another silence. You're still mad over last night? He asked slowly. It was just a joke. I didn't think it was that big a deal. No, I said firmly, standing tall as if I could draw strength from my reflection. You're not understanding. You hid this from me. For 8 months, I've been in the dark about who you are, about your history, and now I'm supposed to pretend it's just a mistake or a joke. He let out a frustrated sigh. It's not like that, Bella. I didn't want you to know. I was trying to make this work. I thought you'd leave if you knew the truth. I felt a chill run through me. Well, you were right. You should have told me, because now I don't know if I can trust you. I waited for his response, but there was only silence. Finally, after a long pause, he spoke. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? That I didn't mean it? No, I replied. I don't want an apology anymore. I want honesty. A deep sigh, and then he said it. I'm not perfect, I know that. But I'm trying, Bella. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of his words, but I wasn't swayed. I had spent months hoping things would be different, hoping that the past didn't matter, that we could build something new, something better. But now I realized I had been living in a fantasy. The truth had been there all along. I wasn't angry at him for his past. I was angry because he never gave me the chance to decide if I could accept it. You don't get it, I whispered, shaking my head. You hid this from me. You lied, and I won't be someone's secret. I never meant for it to be like this, he said, his voice breaking. You don't understand what it's like to be stuck in those old patterns. I took a deep breath. I get it, Ethan, but I'm not your therapist. I'm your girlfriend. And the truth is, I'm not sure I can do this anymore. I hung up the phone, feeling the finality of it weigh down on me like a stone. This wasn't just about the lie he'd told at dinner. It was about everything that had led to that moment. I had to let him go. The next few hours were a blur of texts, phone calls, and unanswered questions. But I stayed quiet. I couldn't keep falling back into the same cycle of false hope. At one point, Jess texted me again, asking if I was okay. Jess, please just talk to him. He's a mess. I knew Jess meant well, but right now, I needed space. I needed time to process everything I had learned. The betrayal, the hidden past, the laughter that masked the truth. So I left the phone alone, grabbing my jacket and heading out for a walk to clear my head. It wasn't over yet, but it would be. I needed to remember that I was stronger than the lies. The next morning, I woke up to more missed calls from Ethan. 6, to be exact. He hadn't stopped trying to reach me. I let my phone buzz on the table as I slowly got ready for the day, not feeling the rush to respond. It wasn't a matter of what I wanted to say anymore. It was about what I needed to hear from him. But as the day wore on and the calls turned into texts, something shifted. I realized it wasn't about him at all anymore. It was about me. I stared at my reflection in the mirror as I brushed my teeth, noticing the faint dark circles under my eyes, the slight tension in my shoulders. I had been living in emotional limbo for the past 24 hours, waiting for Ethan to offer some form of reassurance or apology, but he wasn't going to do that. not in a way that would make me feel whole again. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from his mom. Mrs. Davis. Bella, I'm so sorry about what happened last night. Ethan's beside himself. He's been crying all morning. He feels awful. Please call him. He needs you. I read the text once, then again. I knew she was just trying to help, but it felt more like she was trying to manipulate me into forgiving him, into accepting his apology before I even had the chance to process everything. It wasn't about his tears. It was about his actions, and how they were breaking something I wasn't sure I could fix. By noon, I couldn't avoid him any longer. I glanced at my phone, saw the dozen texts from Ethan that ranged from apologetic to defensive. I opened the latest message from him, which was much shorter than the others. Ethan, Bella, I really want to talk, please. I didn't hesitate. I called him back. His voice came through the speaker quickly, sounding frantic. Bella, please just hear me out. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said what I said, but you're overreacting. You've got to understand, I never meant it like that. I let him talk, letting his words fall over me like an avalanche. Apologies, justifications, promises that things would change. But the more he spoke, the more I realized that it wasn't his words that mattered. It was his actions. I don't think you understand, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the rush of emotions inside me. This isn't about a joke or a slip of the tongue. It's about trust, Ethan. It's about what you've been hiding from me for 8 months. Bella, he said, his voice lowering, you knew about my past. You knew I wasn't perfect. I told you, I wasn't perfect. I felt my chest tighten. You didn't tell me the truth, Ethan. You hid it. You let me believe that you were something you weren't. You made me think I was special, that I was different from all your other exes. I didn't want you to leave me, he said, the words tinged with desperation. I love you. I swear to God, I love you. There it was, the words I knew were coming, but they didn't feel right. They didn't hold the weight of the situation. I swallowed. But you don't love me enough to be honest with me, do you? You didn't love me enough to let me know the truth about your past, about who you really are. I was scared, he admitted. I didn't think you'd accept me if you knew what I'd done before. I don't care about your past, I said, my voice breaking slightly. I care that you thought lying to me was easier than being honest. I care that you hid things that matter. There was silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing, but he didn't speak. You knew who I was when you decided to be with me, Bella, he said finally, the words more resigned than angry. So what now? Are you just going to throw away everything we've built because of a stupid joke? My chest tightened, and I took a deep breath. It's not about a joke, Ethan. It's about whether or not I can trust you again. Can't you just give me another chance? I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. I've given you chances. This isn't the first time you've messed up. And every time I've forgiven you, but I can't keep doing this. You're really done? His voice cracked. Yes, I said softly but firmly. I'm done. There was a long pause, then he whispered, Please don't do this. I love you. I know you do, I said, feeling a pang in my chest. But love isn't enough if I can't trust you. And right now, I can't trust you. Bella. His voice wavered. I'm sorry, Ethan. I really am, but I can't do this anymore. I need to move on. I hung up the phone, the finality of the moment weighing heavily on me. I stood there for a while, looking at the screen as it went dark. It was over. The rest of the day passed in a haze of numbness. I barely ate. I didn't feel the need to talk to anyone else about what had happened. Jess called a few times, but I ignored her messages. I couldn't explain it to her just yet. I wasn't ready. But deep down, I knew I was making the right choice. The next morning, Ethan's mom texted me again. Mrs. Davis, I'm really sorry, Bella. I had no idea about his past. I never should have asked you to stay. Please know that he's trying. He wants to change. He's talking about therapy. I read the message, then set my phone down. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had made my decision. The breakup was clean, if not painless. I didn't answer any more of Ethan's calls. I ignored his texts. I blocked his number after he sent one last message. Ethan, please don't forget me. I wasn't going to forget him. But I was done being his second chance. A week later, Jess reached out. Jess, I know you're upset with me, but I want to apologize for not speaking up earlier. I should have said something when Ethan made that comment. I stared at the message for a while, feeling a flicker of guilt for shutting her out. She had been caught between a rock and a hard place. But the truth was, Jess wasn't the one who had lied to me. I replied, It's not your fault, Jess. I don't blame you. I just need space. She understood. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally starting to breathe again. I spent the next month focusing on myself, trying to untangle the mess that had become my emotions. Ethan had tried to reach out again, but I didn't respond. The closure I needed was already there. The end had come, and it had come because I had finally listened to my instincts. The truth was always there, even when I didn't want to see it. And sometimes the best way to move forward is to trust yourself when you realize that some relationships are meant to end. A month passed, 30 days, 720 hours, an entire cycle of waking up without Ethan's name flashing across my screen. And somewhere in that stretch of silence, something in me finally settled. The chaos evaporated. The buzzing anxiety dulled. I stopped checking my phone for texts I wasn't going to answer. The world didn't end without him in it. It got quieter, cleaner, easier to breathe. The first week after the breakup, Ethan tried everything. And I mean everything. Monday. A bouquet of roses delivered to my office with a card that read, "Sorry for the misunderstanding." A misunderstanding? Like I misheard him bragging about not cheating on me for 8 months? I moved the flowers to the break room and didn't reply. Tuesday, Jess texted me. "Bella, please talk to him. He's really sorry. He didn't mean it." I replied only one thing. Did he cheat on his previous girlfriends? Jess didn't sugarcoat it. Yeah, he did. That said more than Ethan ever had. Wednesday. Ethan accidentally ran into me at my regular lunch spot. He looked tired, unshaven, all glassy-eyed sincerity. "Bella," he said, stepping into my space. "Can we talk? I miss you." "You'll get over it," I said gently, refusing to let my voice break. "That's harsh." "Not as harsh as you treating basic faithfulness like a personal accomplishment," I replied. He flinched like I'd slapped him. He had no comeback for that. Thursday. His mother called again, her voice soft and heavy. "Bella, he says he's willing to go to therapy. He wants to work on himself." "That's good for him," I said, and I meant it. But I'm not going to be his practice relationship while he figures out how to be honest. Mrs. Davis was quiet for a long time before she whispered, almost reluctantly, "That's very fair of you." Friday, the final attempt. He called me from an unknown number. I answered without thinking. "Bella," he breathed, "please, I love you." "No, Ethan," I said, sadness softening the blow. "You love having a girlfriend. There's a difference." "That's not true." "If you loved me, you would have told me about your past before your friends did." He hesitated. That hesitation was the truth speaking louder than any denial. "I was scared you'd leave," he finally said. "So you decided to lie by omission and hope the truth never came out?" "It wasn't lying. It was hiding," I corrected. "And you hid something you knew would matter." Silence. "Please give me another chance," he said eventually. "Why?" "Because I'm different with you," he whispered. I closed my eyes. This was the line, the one every serial self-saboteur used, the one that begged you to be the exception. "You told me 8 months was the longest you'd ever gone without cheating," I said softly. "You've never been faithful longer than this. You don't even know if you're capable of it." He didn't respond. "You need to figure out who you are," I said, "but I'm not going to be your experiment." The silence stretched, then a whisper. Okay. And just like that, Ethan fell out of my life. After that final phone call, the world went still. No more texts, no more flowers, no more surprise appearances. But gossip? That travels faster than any unwanted apology. Within 2 weeks, mutual acquaintances started reaching out. Apparently, Ethan was telling people that I was judgmental, dramatic, and couldn't take a joke. Left out the part where the joke was about his serial cheating habit. Convenient. Some acquaintances took his side, mostly the ones who thought everyone deserves endless chances. I wasn't sad to lose them. One evening, Jess texted me again. This time her tone was different. Serious. Heavy. "Bella, I owe you an apology, a real one." She called me without waiting for permission. "I should have said something at the table," she began. "I should have said something months ago." "Jess, it wasn't your job," I said quietly. "Yeah, it was," she insisted. "You're my friend too. And Ethan, he's been like this for years. I should have warned you." Then she told me everything. The pattern, the repeated betrayal, how he cheated on his high school girlfriend, his college girlfriend with her best friend, his last girlfriend with a coworker. "How did everyone else know but not me?" I asked. She sighed. "Because Ethan gets defensive when anyone brings it up. He hates being called out. So we all just stopped trying." It explained so much. More than I wanted to know, but exactly what I needed. "You deserve better," Jess said softly. And for the first time, I actually believed it. The people who mattered understood. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Davis called again. Her voice was quieter this time, almost fragile. "Bella," she said, "I owe you an apology." You don't, I replied. None of this is your fault. No, she said. I raised him to respect commitment. I didn't know he'd hurt people this way. I didn't know until you. My throat tightened. I didn't expect this. I'm proud of you, she added, for walking away when he wasn't ready to be the man you needed. And just like that, something inside me untangled. After Ethan, the silence didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt calm, steady, like the first breath after resurfacing from deep underwater. I started going to the gym again, picked up a book I'd abandoned months earlier, stopped checking my phone every hour. And somewhere in there, I met someone new. A guy at a bookstore who asked me about the novel in my hand and laughed nervously at his own jokes. When we talked about past relationships, he didn't brag. He didn't minimize. He didn't hide. He was honest. Just honest. Such a simple thing. When someone shows you who they are, not who they want to be, not who they pretend to be, but who they actually are, believe them. Immediately. Ethan told me he wasn't good at monogamy. His friends confirmed it. His history proved it. The only mistake I made was hoping I'd be the exception. But sometimes the best revenge isn't blocking someone, or exposing them, or proving them wrong. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be someone's next victim. And somehow it felt like a revelation. Ethan wanted to see if he could make it longer than 8 months without cheating. He'll have to test that theory on someone else. As for me, I'm finally done treating faithfulness like an achievement. It's a requirement, a minimum, a non-negotiable. Different standards, different outcomes.